Most people know the story of David and Goliath, a young shepherd, a giant warrior, one stone, one victory. But here's something rarely talked about. Goliath was not the only giant. The Bible reveals that Goliath had brothers giants just as deadly, just as feared, and just as determined to destroy God's people. Today, we're uncovering the forgotten giants of the Bible, who they were, where they came from, and how every single one of them fell. Stay with me because this story proves that no enemy is too big for God. Goliath came from Gath, one of the 5 major Philistine cities. He stood over 9 feet tall, wore massive armor, and carried weapons so heavy that no ordinary soldier could even lift them. But Goliath wasn't just a lone giant. He belonged to a family line of giants, often referred to in scripture as the descendants of Rapha. These giants were trained warriors, raised for battle, and feared all across the land of Israel. David defeated Goliath, but that victory was only the beginning. The battle against the giants was far from over. Years after David killed Goliath, Israel continued to face terrifying enemies. In 2 Samuel 21, the Bible lists several more battles against giants from Gath. One of them was named Ishbi-Benob, a giant who nearly killed King David himself. During a fierce battle, David grew weary, and this giant saw his chance to strike down the king. But at the very last moment, Abishai, one of David's mighty men, stepped in, saved the king's life, and killed the giant. Another giant is named Saph, who was also defeated by one of David's warriors. These weren't just random enemies. They were strategic fighters, specifically targeting Israel's leaders, trying to cut the head off the snake. And still, they fell one by one. One of the most shocking giants appears later in the same chapter. The Bible describes a massive warrior who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, a total of 24 digits. This giant taunted and mocked Israel, challenging God's people just as Goliath had done years before. But this time, the victory didn't come from David. It came from Jonathan, David's own nephew. Filled with courage and faith, Jonathan stepped up and struck down this giant, proving that God's power didn't rest on just one man. It rested on anyone who had obedience and trust in him. So where did all these giants come from? The Bible hints that they were connected to an ancient, powerful bloodline going all the way back to the Nephilim mentioned in Genesis. While scripture doesn't give us every single detail of their origin, it makes one thing perfectly clear. These giants represented a powerful and defiant opposition to God's purposes. They were symbols of fear. They were symbols of strength without righteousness. And they were symbols of pure rebellion against God. Yet time and time again, God showed that earthly size, worldly strength, and terrifying appearances mean absolutely nothing when He is against you. Every single one of them fell before the people of God. Why does this story matter to us today? The story of Goliath's brothers teaches us something incredibly powerful. Your biggest battle may not be your last one. Just because you see one giant fall in your life doesn't mean another one won't rise up to take its place. But this story also reminds us of an even greater truth. God doesn't run out of power. God doesn't lose battles. And God never ever abandons His people. Think about it. David didn't defeat every giant alone. God raised up other people, other warriors, leaders, and faithful servants to help finish the fight. And He still does that for us today. When you feel weak, He brings others to stand with you. Every single giant that stood against God's people ultimately fell. Not because Israel was so strong, but because God was so faithful. If you're facing a giant in your life right now, whether it's fear, doubt, sickness, or some overwhelming opposition, remember this story. The same God who defeated Goliath also defeated every one of His brothers, and He hasn't changed. He is still with you and He will fight for you. Thank you for watching. If this message encouraged you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that builds your faith. See you next time.